Hello everyone and welcome to this creepypasta video. So in this one I'm going to be covering a creepypasta that I've saw while scrolling on Tumblr. You know, why not? The creepypasta fandom's still going strong over there. I am happy to see that. But yeah, it's one that seems quite popular but I never actually heard of, which I'm like disappointed in myself, to be quite honest, considering as I have been a fan of creepypasta for like years, since I was a teenager. So yeah, I'm quite miffed. I've never heard of this one before, but it's quite a popular one. So I thought, you know what, why not cover it and do a blind react like I do for most of the creepypastas, to be honest, but apart from the big ones. But yeah, I like blind reacting to it and reading it for the first time on my channel. It just gives my reaction a bit better of reaction. So yeah, let's get crack-a-lacking. So, Julius the Dressmaker. I don't have much time left. Who'll return any moment? It's beyond me how I'm still conscious, let alone alive. Even the smallest movement causes indescribable, excruciating pain. However, I feel it necessary to push through this agony because everyone desperately needs to be warned of him. It's far too late to save myself. Anyone who attempted to try would be embarking on a suicide mission. This is simply a warning. I hope can save others. The fatal meeting this demon isn't something I would even wish on my worst enemy. My name is Casey O'Sullivan. The events that led up to my predicament all truly began long time ago. My youngest days, actually, maybe even before my birth. This fate has been determined for me. The more I think about it, yes, it was inevitable. I'd meet my maker at the hands of Julius. However, this will all make sense to you by the time you're done reading. I don't know if I'll even be able to finish telling my story before my intimate death. Forgive my rambling, I'm very foggy in the head. I've gotten ahead of myself. Let me get back to where it all started. Ever since I was a little girl, I dream about my wedding day. In fact, I actually began planning it as a child, going so far as to have my gown picked out by the time I was 8. After seeing a photo of my great-great-grandmother on her wedding day, I knew I wanted a replica of the gown. As expected from a photo from 1890, it was rather low quality and unfortunately deteriorating. Every time I touched the image, another bit of ink seemed to fade or blur into nothingness. Despite this, I could still make out most of the details on the gorgeous dress. Given my determination to preserve the treasured image, I didn't look at it all too often. I had made a great effort to keep the grainy photo from further eroding. Sealing the photo airtight in a Ziploc bag, I tucked it into a labelled envelope and kept it locked in my nightstand drawer. Logan was my high school sweetheart. We've been together ever since he asked me to junior high prom. He's the first and only boyfriend I had. In fact, we've been close friends since childhood, so much so that both our parents joked about us marrying when we grew up. It was a lovely day when Logan proposed to me. The location may not have seemed anything special to your average person, simply the gardens of our neighbourhood park. However, for us, it was the park we played in as children, where we'd meet nearly 2 decades ago. Logan sat me on one of the 8 swings that hung on the faded red set, the same swings that were nearly as old as we were. He got down on one knee in front of me and asked me to marry him, right there in the wood chips. Being the sentimental person I am, and how much thought he'd clearly put into the proposal, he had mean tears of happiness. Of course I said yes without hesitation. It was at our engagement party when a tall, strawberry-haired, well-dressed man approached me. I felt like I knew him but couldn't quite place the name to his face, which was obscured by a pair of mirrored sunglasses despite being indoors. The scar on his neck stood out though, and I racked my brain attempting to remember where I recognised him from. Clack, 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 interrupting my thoughts, and before I could even open my mouth, the man spoke quickly but confidently in a hushed tone. I heard through the grapevine you wanted an authentic Victorian wedding dress. I know where you'll be able to get the perfect handmade dress better than you could ever dream. I was sent by the owner to extend this offer. He says to consider it a personal invitation. He took my hand in his own. pressing a slip of paper into the palm before letting go. Taken aback by the unexpected and sudden encounter with the stranger, I wasn't sure how to immediately respond. For a moment I just stared at him and blinked. When glancing down at the paper he'd given me, on what appeared to be torn from a notebook page, the words sorry guys, Dahiti's dress shop had been scrawled, accompanied by what I assumed was the address, along with a date and time. It was only a few blocks away from my apartment, yet initially I couldn't recall ever seeing it. The man startled me as he suddenly spoke again. "It's a Victorian era style boutique store," he told me, as if he'd read my thoughts. Hearing that from him was all it took for me to suddenly remember the place. "Oh yes, I've always been curious to pop in there and have a look, actually. Unfortunately, the place has always either been closed or I was in too much of a hurry when it was actually open." The man smiled widely. "Well, you'd finally get the chance to do so. Simply show up on the time I wrote. The owner has it scheduled as a personal appointment for you." That night I debated whether to go to the shop, ultimately deciding to. Despite the odd invitation, it easily could be explained. Luckily, one of my sisters or close girlfriends, all of whom would be bridesmaids, had gone to the shop to surprise me. Yes, that had to be it, given how many times I remember bringing up the place and my curiosity of it. As for the unnamed stranger who'd given me the invite, I gave up trying to remember where I recognised him. Reason being, he was obviously an employee of the shop he'd invited me to. Upon entering the shop the following Saturday, I was greeted by a tall, flamboyant man who I assumed to be the owner. Clack, clack, clack. The heels of leather boots he wore clacked loudly, giving audio to his already striking appearance. Dressed in a button-down shirt with shiny gold and blue stripes, it had an oddly pleasing clash with the dark yet bright purplish hair that framed his face, which reminded me of a porcelain doll. On his right cheekbone, a small black heart had been tattooed beneath his eye. With a soft, almost harmonic voice, he spoke to me. "I see you accepted my invitation. How wonderful to meet you, ma'am." The man smiled gently. "Congratulations as well on the engagement." Offering my hand out to shake, I said, "Nice to meet you. I've been looking forward to our appointment." He didn't take my hand, instead crossing his arms in a manner that felt a bit intimidating. However, the relaxed smile on his dollish face kept me at ease. "As have I. Your sister is acquainted with an employee of mine and happened to mention your wedding to him." "Oh yes, that would explain how you knew, though it hadn't been exactly what I'd assumed previously. It made even more sense and calmed a bit of remaining anxiety I had." "I heard you had something specific in mind." "Yes, my great-great-grandmother's dress. I reached into my purse to get the treasured photo. I have a picture. I brought it here, in fact." The tall man wordlessly uncrossed his arms and held out a rather delicate hand. His long slender fingers were manicured better than my own. I hesitated upon noticing how sharp his glossy black nails appeared to be. "Well," he raised an eyebrow, "I can't read minds, you know." The tone of the man's voice was playful and friendly. Once again my worries were put at rest, and I proceeded to hand him the photo. Snatching it out of my hand, the man studied the photo in silence with a blank face for well over a minute. I figured the faded and smudging of it was causing him to struggle to figure out whether he'd be able to replicate it accurately. When he finally looked up at me again, the soft smile had returned to his face. "I can most certainly do that for you," he spoke enthusiastically. "We'll make sure this dress both meets and exceeds your expectations. You must have a perfect dress for the big day after all. Weddings are always something to celebrate to the fullest extent. How about a lovely pair of white leather ankle boots to match?" I beamed, the idea sounding perfect. "Yes, absolutely, thank you," I agreed without a second thought. The photograph was handed back to me. I looked down to inspect the old picture in my hand, expecting to see another mark of wear. Oddly though, not only was it in the condition it had been previously, but ink actually appeared less faded than before, and the wrinkles not as noticeable. I would have thought more about the real predicament of the photo if it hadn't only then occurred to me. "What's your name? I don't think I caught it." However, by the time I looked back, the dark-haired male had disappeared, shuffling through my bag. I took took out the appointment card which I received at the engagement shower. Though I don't remember any name being on it before, I was surprised to find out it had been scored at the bottom. Julius. The name rang a distant bell in my mind, though I couldn't quite place it. Tilting my head back up to look for the man who had seemed to vanish into thin air, I was startled to find he now stood directly in front of me. Do you believe in God, Casey? Julius asked softly, his ice blue eyes locking onto my own, catching me in a stare down I couldn't escape from. I blinked at the question, confused at not only the seemingly instantaneous silent way he'd moved, but also baffled at sudden curiosity in my faith. Yes, I answered carefully. You believe in heaven and hell? Julius asked, in a manner that felt a little more like an interrogation. Nodded, I answered, of course. Where would you rather go? The man asked, in a tone that filled me with dread despite the gentleness of his voice. Heaven, of course, I told him. Julius chuckled, shaking his head to himself, as if I'd just said some joke, and motioned for me to follow. Very well, let's go measure you for your own gown now, dear. We must make sure it's just perfect. As odd as the man's behaviour was, I was foolishly wrote it off, chalking it all down to his obvious eccentric and rather quirky personality. Julius was odd, certainly, but he began to casually chat with me about life and the latest celebrity gossip. The strange aspects of him were forgotten as our light-hearted conversation flowed while he'd taken more measurements. He began to feel like an old friend. Julius was friendly, sweet and kind even. He decided to make the file for my wedding gown free of charge, and when I pushed back he insisted. Once we'd finished covering all the bases for my wedding attire and scheduled my next appointments, Julius saw me out. He walked me out the door and held it for me. A real gentleman. You get home safe now, Casey, he told me, opening the door into what I only now realised was Friday night. I could have sworn I'd been no longer than 2 hours at most. Oh, I will, thank you again, really. Just gotta give Logan a call and let him know I'm alright. He must be worried. I reached to take my phone out. 8:30 p.m. How the heck had it been over 8 hours? You can just blame me, Julius chuckled light-heartedly. I shouldn't have kept you so long chatting. Time is an odd thing. I didn't understand exactly what he meant by the last part, so I just agreed, as I was running late already and I didn't have time to ask for an explanation. It is alright, I must be going now. I'll see you in a month for the fitting appointment, Julius. I smiled and gave a wave goodbye. Julius returned the gesture before disappearing into the shop while I began my trip home. The appointment for the fitting of my gown had been scheduled for exactly 1 month later. Today, I woke up this morning thrilled, clueless to the hell, quite literally, I would be walking into. It was raining, and despite leaving a bit early, the weather caused me to run late, albeit only by a few minutes. I was half soaked once I made it to the shop, which seemed to be scented by fresh roses. You're late, Julius, his voice alerted me to his presence. His tone was flat, and he appeared to be rather unpleased by my tardiness. My apologies. I left early, actually. I'm excited for today. I held my hand out to shake with an apologetic smile. Upon hearing me, a small smile spread across Julius's face, though it appeared very forced. Rather than returning my offered handshake, the tall male simply crossed his arms across his chest as he'd done our previous meeting. I as well. I've been looking forward to showing you the dress I've made for you. He turned on the heel of his boot, walking towards the back of the shop and motioning for me to follow. No need for such formalities between us, yes? It's just fine for you to address me as Julius. Alright then, Julius, I agreed, following along, admiring the dresses and various accessories that the shop was packed with. Every customer of mine is special to me and means a great deal, he told me, as he walked over to a certain hung in circle, obscuring whatever was behind it from view. You're a kind man, I chuckled. Oh, you're far too sweet, my dear, he laughed lightly. For some reason, his reaction made a pit of dread form in my stomach. However, I didn't have more than a second to register it. At the moment, he ripped open the curtain to reveal the mannequin that modelled what would be my wedding wear. What immediately caught my attention was how lifelike the mannequin appeared to be, a woman strikingly similar to Julius's own appearance, down to the doll-like face. However, my eyes not her eyes, but ocean blue instead of the near white icy blue of the dressmakers. Do you like it, Julius? Voice cut through my distraction. I looked at the gown finally and was taken aback by just how perfect it was. The attention to detail was stunning. Each bead and sequin was placed flawlessly in a manner that could only have been done by hand. The dress successfully made me forget about the oddness of the mannequin that wore it. Yes, I nodded, blinking back tears of joy. I love it. It's perfection. Julius cut me off, finishing my sentence for me. The man smiled proudly at my reaction to his hard work. Beyond perfection. Thank you, Julius, I beamed at him. Shall we get you into the gown to make sure it all fits properly then? Julius began unbuttoning the gown to remove it from the mannequin, leaving it in the plain underdress slip. That sounds wonderful, I agreed. Julius showed me over to the dressing room. I changed into the dress in privacy, emerging only once I was ready for him to help button up the back and tie the corset for me. Clack, clack, clack. Bringing me over to a mirror, Julius helped me on a small platform. You remind me so much of my sister, Julius hummed to me in his soft voice. You look just like she did on her wedding day. He did the buttons of the dress. Oh, you have a sister? I asked, while admiring myself in the gorgeous handcrafted gown. It was so flawless, made that it may as well have been a true Victorian era vintage dress. The corset was laced and tightened to the extent I could hardly breathe. I did the man side, placing the lace veil upon my head. Julius stood behind as he adjusted it, while I watched both of our reactions in the mirror. Did? A sad smile on the dressmaker's face was visible. Yes, Julius spoke, but she's dead now. There was something about the way sweetness dripped from the words that made my stomach twist. I'm sorry to hear. I turned my head to look him in the eyes while expressing my condolences. Don't be, Julius. His voice grew softer and sickeningly sweet. She was a real bitch. To my horror, his sad smile walked into a demented grin, showing razor-sharp teeth that were inhuman. Excuse me? I attempted to back away, but didn't get very far as I stumbled on the long gown. Clack, clack, clack. The sound Julius's boots made was deafening as he stepped forward, grabbing my wrist and digging what I realised in terrible claws into my flesh. Julius's expression grew unsettlingly gentle again as he spoke. Just as I said, she was exactly like you. No worries, though, my dear Casey. I'll turn you perfect just as I did for her. Those words made it click. Why the mannequin which had modelled my dress resembled the man, the demon, in front of me. That had been his sister. I yanked my arm out of his grip in disgust and fear. Adrenaline helped me ignore the pain of his claws ripping through my skin. Julius just stood there, watching me with icy dead eyes and an unreadable expression as I backed up, clutched my injured arm to my chest. You fucking monster, I spat. Clack, clack, clack. I'd made him angry, furious. He reached a clawed hand out towards me again, but I managed to just escape it, making a mad dash towards the door. Clack, clack, clack. I tried the handle, but I was stuck, locked. I was trapped. Clack, clack, clack. I felt my stomach drop as outside the glass. The world blurred and faded until it was nothing but black. It was surreal to witness, as if suddenly everything had been drowned in the darkest ink. There was nothing beyond the window panes of the shop. Clack, clack, clack. Unfortunately, heaven was never an option for you, Julius hummed. Clack, clack, clack. He was right behind me now. You're in hell, Casey. Let me go, I screamed, turning to face my captor. Julius didn't respond. He simply raised a hand and struck me across the face with enough force that I fell to the ground. Something heavy hit my head. There was searing pain, and then my own vision faded to black, just as the world outside the shop had. I awoke, strapped down to a surgery table, in the most severe pain of my life. The stench of blood was mixed with overpowering sweet smell of rotting roses. Looking down at my body, I realised to my horror I was missing multiple patches of skin. Though I was still dressed in the gown, the fabric had simply been removed along with my flesh beneath. The amount of anguish my body was in preventing me from being able to tell if I was dreaming or not. I was so groggily coming back to reality when I heard the unmistakable sound. Clack, clack, clack. The clacking of the dressmaker's heels alerted me to his presence. My vision was blurry from pain, but I could make out he carried a large pair of hard, rusting, seemingly jagged scissors. The blood covering him confirmed that he did indeed had skinned me. Clack, clack, clack. Julius leaned over me while threading a long needle. He almost was singing as he softly spoke. Pain is perfection, and you'll be perfect forever here with me in hell. I wrongfully interpreted him as possibly wanting company, a friend. I'll stay, be your friend even. Just don't kill me like this, please, I begged. We could forget about all of this and just chat and gossip. And suddenly, enraged, Julius cut me off with a smack across the face, snapping loudly, "What in the damn world would make you think I want your friendship, you worthless slut? You'll be perfect company for me once you're dead and cannot speak." Shocked and in even more pain, I didn't have a chance to respond as he instantly switched back to a calm, relaxed demeanour. "Why are you doing this?" I finally managed to ask between tortured screams. "Oh, I'm simply making you your wedding dress, my dear." Julius's voice dripped with sickening sweetness. The gentle smile on his lips contrasted the pure maliceness in his cold, dead eyes was enough to make bile rise in my throat. I forced down a gag, choking out, "What?" "Skin is such a lovely fabric," Julius hummed the words with a content sigh. Stepping next to the stepping shift surgery table I was tied to. The man stared down at me silently for a good minute before slowly lifting my hand, which held the scissors into the air. As if to put on display, he used his index finger and thumb to hold up the large, warm but sharp scissors. He smiled for a brief moment before his expression changed to one of focus with pure evil intentions. Without waiting another second, the demon took the scissors to my skin, cutting in effortlessly. He seemed deaf to my screams of pain. While he turned me out while going his slow, torturous work, I thought I was going to pass out from the pain as the old, razor-sharp scissors unceremoniously tore into my flesh repeatedly. My vision darkened again, and everything spun. For a brief moment I thought I'd spared from any further agony before my death. Then, just as my eyes drifted shut and everything faded, I heard a voice. "Oh, Casey, wakey, wakey," followed by a painful jab of a large needle into my arm. A sudden searing pain shot into my body, followed by an intense wave of energy and euphoria. I looked over, becoming even more disturbed upon realising his actions. It was a large syringe that he'd stabbed into my arm, obviously to inject some kind of drug into me. "We can't let our bride fall asleep on her special day," Julius sneered in the most gut-wrenching, sugar-sweet voice. "What the fuck is wrong with you, demon?" I spat, energized by whatever concoction he'd given me, enough to ignore the pain a bit. "Nothing is wrong with me, dear." Julius spoke softly in a tone that sounded like he generally actually believed the words. "The only problem here is you, in fact." He talked while continuing to cut into both my dress and my skin. My throat was raw from screaming in agony. The pain had become so blinding I was not sure whether I was beginning to fail to register it completely, or if it simply encapsulated my entire existence. "You see," Julius kept talking. When I didn't look at him, he smacked me across the face with a bloody clawed hand. "Hey, you look at me when I speak, goddamn worthless bitch." The demon dug his claws into my cheeks, making me turn my head towards him. Shockingly, he appeared rather calm. "That's better," Julius patted my cheek, then returned to cutting my body. "As I was saying, to make sure your dress is actually perfect and fits flawlessly, I have a trick." "Oh, let me guess, you saw it right onto me." I managed a sarcastic comment through my misery. My brain ran at warp speed, fueled by whatever drug had been given to me. "That's exactly right," Julius responded, delighted. "No need for new hair, so we won't have to scalp you," he smiled. "That's always a very painful process. No one has actually lived through that. You've lived through much, much longer than most. I must say, I am impressed, Casey." "Fuck you, Sabas." "Such rude language," he responded, as if he'd been throwing around curses moments ago. And to think in response to compliments, a thank you, Julius, would be much more appropriate. He punctuated the words by cutting into my waistline. Stop, I screamed, thrashing a bit in the restraint. Got to make your waist smaller if you want perfection, dear. He patted my cheek again with a blood-soaked hand. No worries though, we'll get you right stitched up, we will. A large needle pierced into my skin, and I could feel the thread tugging my body into the shape he desired. For the love of God, stop, please, I begged as the tears streamed freely down my face. There's no God here, Casey, you're in hell, he repeated from his earlier words as he finished stitching me. The other side of my waist was given the same treatment, though I could tell he purposely was taking his time. His expression gave away how much he was actually enjoying my suffering. Finally, once Julius was finished, he straightened upright. The nails of his boots could be heard as he was about to wait. Clack, clack, clack. Time to put your boots on you, Julius declared, moving to the foot of the table. Huh? With a grin, the man held up a hatchet for me to see before raising it into the air, preparing to deliver a strike. Don't, please. I never got a chance to finish my sentence. In one brutal but clean blow, the limb was severed. I didn't even realise I'd been screaming until I felt a hot iron press against the stump to cauterise it. That feeling was what caused me to screech so loud my vocal cords blew out. Julius spoke as he took his large needle and thread back up. Finally, you've shut the fuck up, thank goodness. With quick yet small pristine stitches, he sewed a white boot over the injury to replace where my foot had been. I glared the best I could through the torture and through my tears, ignoring the excruciating misery I was in, to give him the middle finger. Julius simply rolled his eyes and stretched his soldier. Can never say that word properly. So he stretched his soldiers before giving my other foot the same treatment as the first. This time he seemed to work quicker, almost in a rush. I couldn't scream, but I didn't even want to anymore. Instead, I silently wept and accepted my fate. Clack, clack, clack. He backed away again, covered in my blood. Julius wiped his face there with a cloth, then told me, usually I prefer to do all my work in one go, he told me as he stared seemingly admiring what he'd done to me. However, I have a matter I must attend to briefly. I must have given him the most baffled expression, because he grinned and patted my cheek. Oh, I'll be back, Casey, don't you worry about that. Julius undid the undercuffs which had restrained my wrist. The man took my hand in his own, placing what I realised was my phone in it. Go ahead and amuse yourself while I'm gone. There is Wi-Fi in hell. And with that he turned on his heel and walked away. Clack, 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 bang. Julius had left the room, slamming the heavy door behind himself in what seemed like a rage. That leads me to where I am now, typing this out, trying to finish in time before he returns. He's been well over an hour. Before I began writing this, I spent a brief bit of time searching up his name. After browsing various results, I discovered something that disturbed me deeply. His sister, Annabella of Sullivan. She's my great-great-grandmother, and she killed him back in 1898 behind his shop. She murdered Julius with a single bullet to his face, which I realise is where his heart tattooed now sat. It was only a few weeks later that Annabella disappeared under mysterious circumstances, along with her husband, my great-great-grandfather. Their children have been left orphaned, which explains why I'm here today. What led her to kill him remains a mystery to me. Maybe he'd hurt her, or maybe, just maybe, could she have done something that warranted her to meet the same ending which I assume will. These questions will never be something I'll find the answer to. I don't have much time left. Once Julius returns, it's inevitable. My death will come swiftly. I'm already bleeding out. My vision is turning hazy, and I'm beginning to no longer be able to think straight. I'm no longer afraid. Telling my story has come to set me at ease with my fate. The pain has faded to numbness. I'm already at peace, knowing this will all be over shortly. One final time, I must beg of you, do not fall for this demon's tricks and trap. Don't fall for his disguise as harmless. He is anything but that. Should you be invited to a place by a tall man with a scarred neck, don't speak to him and run away as fast as you can. I figured out once you engage with these monsters, they can fake false memories. I never knew this shop. In fact, it was never here before I was invited, and if you fall for their tricks, then may Lord have mercy on your soul. I met the dressmaker from hell. I hope you never do. Clack, clack, clack. Please tell my family, friends and fiancé Logan that I love them all so very much. Clack, clack, clack. Sincerely, Casey O'Sullivan. Clack, 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 bang. And that is the end of Julius the Dressmaker. So, I really enjoyed that one. That was like a quite cool one. I'm gutted I've never read that one before, because that was quite an interesting one. I did really enjoy that, especially when you find that her grandmother ended up killing him back in it was 1890s, wasn't it, that picture was from. So that was quite an interesting one. I really enjoyed it. It was a good length as well. It wasn't too long and it wasn't too short, and I think it covered everything that you needed to know. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you have any suggestions for anything you'd like me to cover on my channel, just let me know either in the comments below on my socials, which I'll have also linked below. And I have my email address, my YouTube bio. Let me know on any of those. I check them all quite frequently. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And I'll see you all in the next one.